Today, we're diving into something that's totally invisible but powers almost everything you do online. We're going to figure out how it all just works. You know that feeling? You tap a single button to book a flight, and instantly your calendar knows, your map app knows, your payment app knows, they're all on the same page. How does that even happen? I mean, it seriously feels like magic, right? Well, it's not. So let's break down that magic, because the secret behind it, it's actually not that complicated at all. Yep, a restaurant. I know what you're thinking, but this simple, everyday place, it holds the key to understanding one of the most crucial pieces of modern tech. Just stick with me here. I promise it's all going to make perfect sense. Okay, so let's really dive into this restaurant analogy. We're going to use it to break down exactly how all these different apps and pieces of software are able to talk to each other. Okay, just think about it for a second. When you go to a restaurant, you don't just barge into the kitchen and start making your own food, right? That would be total chaos. No, there's a system, there's a process. You look at the menu, you give your order to a waiter, and they are the ones who deal with the kitchen. The most important thing to see here is the structure. There's a very specific way to ask for something and a specific way to get it back. All right, so let's take that whole restaurant process and map it directly onto the digital world. This is where we really get to the heart of how it all works. So this is the API, the Application Programming Interface. I know it sounds super technical, but really, it's just a fancy name for our waiter. That's all it is. It's the messenger. It takes a request from one app, carries it over to another app, and then brings the answer right back. It really is that simple. One app asks a question, another one gives the answer, and the API is the go-between. And think about it. Just like in a restaurant, you can't order something that's not on the menu, right? Well, the API is the menu. It basically lays out all the possible orders. It defines exactly what one app is allowed to ask another. So a weather app's API will let you ask for the temperature for sure, but you can't use it to ask for, say, the latest stock prices. It's all about keeping things clear and orderly. Okay, so when one of your apps needs some information, what it does is it creates something called an API request. This is literally you telling the waiter your exact order. You're not just saying, hey, bring me some food. No, you're saying, I want the spaghetti bolognese, please, with extra Parmesan. The request has to be super specific. And then, naturally, after you place your order, your food comes back from the kitchen. In the digital world, we call that the API response. It's the actual data or the message that the other app sends back. So your weather app makes a request for the temperature in London, and the Weather Services API shoots back a response that says it's 15 degrees Celsius.
But, just like any good restaurant, it can't just be a total free-for-all. You got to have some rules to keep things running smoothly and efficiently.
I mean, a restaurant kitchen can only handle so many orders at one time, right? Imagine if one person came in and ordered 1,000 meals at once. The entire system would just grind to a halt. Well, APIs are exactly the same. They have rules. They set limits on who can ask for information, and really importantly, how often they can ask. This just makes sure the service stays fair and stable for absolutely everyone. So, how do you enforce those rules? Well, with something called API keys. The best way to think about this is like your reservation name at a fancy restaurant. Or maybe even better, it's like showing your ID to the bouncer before you get into a club. It's a unique code that proves your app is who it says it is and that it actually has permission to ask for stuff. It's a really basic but super important security measure. Okay, but what about when things go wrong? Because they do. If you order a dish, but the kitchen is all out of it, the waiter doesn't just, ignore you. They come back to your table and say, hey, sorry, we're out of that. An API error is exactly the same thing. It's just a clear, polite message that explains exactly what went wrong with your request. And this is a really crucial point. An error is not a failure. It's not a crash. It's just information. It's actually the system being helpful. It's communicating back to the developers saying something like, hey, you asked for something that we don't have, or whoops, your API key looks wrong. It's basically a clue that helps them figure out the problem and fix it fast. Okay, so now that we've got the mechanics down, let's zoom out a bit. Let's look at how this one simple idea has literally built the entire connected world that we all live in. Seriously, you are using APIs dozens, maybe even hundreds of times a day, and you probably don't even realize it. That little weather widget on your phone, that's an API. Getting directions on a map, API. Paying for your coffee with your phone, API. Booking a trip that pulls in flights, hotels, and rental cars all at once, you guessed it, that's a whole bunch of different services all talking to each other through APIs. And that's really the big takeaway here. Every single tap on your phone can set off this whole symphony of messengers, all working behind the scenes. That's why our apps feel so powerful, so fast, so seamless. It's not one massive program trying to do everything by itself. It's more like a team of specialists, all communicating with each other perfectly to get the job done.
So if there's just one thing you remember from all this, let it be this. APIs are the messengers. They're the invisible threads that weave our entire digital world together. They're what allow for all the incredible speed, connection, and innovation we see every day.
So you see, it's not magic at all. It's just a menu, a waiter, and a kitchen. It's a simple but incredibly powerful system of communication. And that leaves us with just one question, really. Now that you know the secret, now that you know how all the pieces connect,